10 wrestling gimmicks fans are sick of. Number 10. The Monster. No matter what wrestling promotion it is, whether it's WWE, Impact, or an independent show, as soon as a company hires a wrestler of a certain size, the gimmick they are giving quickly becomes a monster every single time. While the gimmick can be done to perfection and create dominant and fearful characters, just look at the likes of Kane, The Undertaker, or even Braun Strowman. It is also something that companies are far too reliant on. Just because someone is huge in size doesn't necessarily mean they must become a monster. With plenty of other gimmicks being available, it would be good to see creative teams shake things up a little bit. Number 9. The Wrestler. When someone's gimmick is that they are a wrestler and not an entertainer, it is usually just a marker for the fact they either have no personality at all or struggle to convey that personality to a bigger audience. Nobody can get invested in a wrestler simply because they are good at their job. After all, anyone who's being paid money by a top promotion should be good inside the ring. While some are clearly better than others, you need to have more in your locker than that. The likes of Bret Hart and CM Punk didn't rely upon the fact they were better than everybody in the ring as their entire gimmick. They developed themselves and became bigger stars because of it. Number 8. AntiAuthority. Ever since Stone Cold Steve Austin, every single wrestling promotion has been looking to find that magic sauce once again, hoping they can create another wrestler on his level of stardom and popularity. One of Stone Cold's best runs came from an anti-authority figure with his feud with Vince McMahon, arguably being the greatest in wrestling history. It has occasionally worked since, with the likes of Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, but for the most part, it no longer gains the same reaction it once did. This is mainly down to the fact that the authority figures are nowhere near as entertaining as Vince McMahon, but also because people want to see different things, not a rehash of the past glory days. Number 7. The Party Person. This is one of the worst gimmicks in wrestling because it just doesn't make sense when you're trying to make a serious show that you want people to think it's real and legitimate, and then you have someone partying their way to the ring. As soon as you're given this gimmick, one thing is for sure, you're never reaching the main event, and you're very unlikely to even pick up a championship because the gimmick is one that cannot be taken seriously by anyone. Just looking at what happened to Adam Rose or what is currently going on with No Way Jose, it is a career death trap for anyone who receives it, and it's likely not something that any wrestler wants to be given. Number 6. Wealthy heel. This is a gimmick that can only work with a heel wrestler because seeing a babyface brag about how much money they have wouldn't really make sense. But it is a gimmick that many companies enjoy using frequently. It seems as if talking about being rich and wealthy is one of the only ways to get heat for some wrestlers, and while it can be done very well, such as Ted DiBiase, that doesn't mean it has to be done repeatedly. JBL was a ripoff from the $1 Million Man, and Alberto Del Rio's character quickly followed suit with exactly the same style of gimmick with the car entrance as well. It's something we have seen so many times now, so please, let's put a stop to it for a while. Number 5. Cult leader. Whether it's a psychotic maniac such as Bray Wyatt leading his family through crazy mind games, or a true leader like Wade Barrett trying to get a group of young wrestlers to make an impact, cult leaders have been a frequent feature in professional wrestling. All wrestling promotions enjoy having stables. It creates different storylines and can protect top guys by having the weaker wrestler in the group constantly pick up the loss. But it's very rare to see a stable share the leadership responsibilities. This is a gimmick that usually starts off hot and interesting but quickly fizzles out whenever the group begin to lose matches and can often leave the leader in a worse position than what they were beforehand. Number 4. The Authority. How many times in wrestling have you been made to listen to long, drawn-out, and boring authority promos? Whether it's in WWE, TNA, or even your local independent promotion, it seems as if every single company feels the need to do it. WWE is certainly the worst for this when they literally created their authority, but at least right now, they're giving a slightly refreshing change of having babyface wrestlers in the management positions. Authority figures tend to always be members of management, with Stephanie McMahon, Eric Bischoff, and Dixie Carter all feeling the need to slot themselves into that role for no reason whatsoever, just to belittle the wrestlers. It worked with Vince McMahon and Stone Cold. It hasn't quite had the same effect ever since. Number 3. The King. With the King of the Ring tournament no longer being something that WWE does, the chances of this gimmick coming back are incredibly slim. But that is a good thing because the number of wrestlers who adopted the royalty gimmick was ridiculous. There are only a few select wrestlers who actually made it work, with the most obvious being Jerry Lawler, who still refers to himself as the King today. But there are also plenty of examples of wrestlers who totally failed using royalty. In the modern era, it is something that is almost impossible to get right, as wrestling fans just do not buy into the idea, and wearing a plastic crown every week only makes matters worse. So let's keep this gimmick on the sidelines. Number 2. The Dancer. Just like the partying gimmick, this is another that only works for a very brief period of time, and then we'll see the wrestler quickly fall down the card to jobber status, just like Fandango did after a brief moment in the spotlight with Chris Jericho. If wrestlers are supposed to be taken seriously as fighters and someone who can legitimately hurt another person, then having a gimmick where you're a dancer isn't always the best idea to get that message across. Sure, it is different and can be fun for brief moments, but seeing someone dance around has its limits, and you need to add more depth to the character, otherwise it simply falls flat. Number 1. Anti-American Foreigner. If you're a foreign wrestler, it seems like you always have to be anti-American, especially in the world of WWE, where nearly every single foreign wrestler who walks through the door taking this gimmick up at some point during their run. It doesn't matter what their nationality actually is, they're always presented as people who hate America and almost always wind up in a flag match, even when it's obvious that they could be a babyface. WWE likes to not let that happen, which is clear right now with Rusev. Foreign wrestlers can work as babyfaces as well if they are booked correctly, but the most part, they always need to be heels who people hate because they are from outside of the country. It is a backwards way of thinking and is a gimmick that really needs to have a break.